Hi there, I'm Anna Vito down on the Hobart waterfront in southern Tasmania for the Rural Quarter today. Coming up on the program, the intricate art of cattle judging.
She's not the biggest udder in the class, but it's so silky and it's so welded on. The teat's just hanging so beautifully.
A little bit more on udders a bit later in the program. But first, it's been a year since Australian rock lobster fishermen lost access to their most lucrative export market when the Chinese government launched a border crackdown. Now, as a new season approaches, fishermen say a firm solution still hasn't been found, as Cara Douglas reports.
The season opens in 2 months, but there's no guarantee Australian lobsters will make it to their biggest market in China.
Every time we started to put product in there in bulk, and other countries of course, the government just cracked down.
Last year, China stopped Australian imports because some processors had been selling through Hong Kong to avoid tariffs. Unable to move their stock, fishermen were selling locally for less than half the export price. It cost the Tasmanian industry about $15 million.
I was asked by my processor not to go fishing. So it costs you time and it costs you product, and in the end it costs you money.
If we go through another year of that, you could certainly see some factories disappear and fishermen.
Michael Blake is the first Tasmanian processor to reach a deal with a Chinese buyer. It's through a legal market, but the price is fixed at about $20 a kilo less than the current rate. The rock lobster industry says the solution is a free trade agreement with China.
That is fundamental to us to at least be on a level playing field.
Australia's biggest competitor in the Chinese lobster market is New Zealand, which has a free trade agreement. It means New Zealand fish cost 10% less and will be 15% cheaper when the country is tariff-free in 2013. The Australian government has held 16 rounds of formal negotiations with China over the last 6 years. A spokesman for Trade Minister Craig Emerson says it's been slow and difficult, with sensitivities on both sides. Tasmania's lobster season opens in November, but a trial's being held in northern waters to allow fishermen to catch male lobsters from next month to take advantage of higher prices.
The Tasmanian aquaculture industry continues to go from strength to strength. And now, a southern Tasmanian fish meal factory has undergone a multi-million-dollar expansion to keep up with demand. It's going to double its output and reduce the stress to native fish stocks. Here's Fiona Blackwood.
This fish food factory is designed to provide for an increasingly hungry aquaculture industry.
We've experienced 10% per annum growth over the last 10 years. And because of that, we've reached our capacities.
The $36 million expansion of Skretting's plant will not only double production, but will cater for a wide range of tastes.
Every fish has every age group and every species has its own special product.
Each pellet is a complex combination of ingredients, but in an effort to make the end product more sustainable, the reliance on wild fish meal is being reduced.
We can use terrestrial or land-based proteins, we can use vegetable-based proteins, and there's all different combinations that are being researched and trialled across the world.
About 25% of the feed goes to New Zealand, but the majority is consumed by the aquaculture industry in Tasmania.
We believe they can double or more the size of the industry over the coming years.
3 Tasmanian companies have plans to expand their fish farm leases on the west coast.
We don't have what we call the amoebic gill disease, or AGD, which you may hear is a challenge that we have down in the south. That's not present in Macquarie Harbour due to the freshwater influence. And we just have less interactions with seals up there as well.
The companies will submit an environmental impact statement at the end of the month.
After a decade of drought and then floods, Victorian farmers finally have something to smile about. Better soil moisture means that more canola has been planted this year. In fact, it's up a third on last year. And 400,000 hectares of farmland are awash with yellow flowers. Guy Stainer reports on the prospect of a record crop.
These are Victoria's latest goldfields. As far as the eye can see, canola is blooming.
Oh, it's been terrific. It performed well last year, plenty of subsoil moisture this year, and the price has been right up there at some of the best prices we've seen. And look, we've got it spread over 3 different properties, and each one of them's got canola in it.
For 15 years, Noel Slee couldn't penetrate his soil by more than a few inches.
You just can't grow a crop on that much moisture.
It's a different story today.
We've got a good soil profile, we've got at least 3 feet of water or more, and that's the first time in over a decade that we've had that, and that's because of the floods in the summertime.
After the deluge came the flood, and after the flood comes the canola. For more than a decade there's been so little moisture in the soil, farmers have been forced to grow cereal crops. Now more canola than ever has been planted, and much of Victoria is a sea of gold. Canola pays better than cereal crops, and this year even an average yield could produce a record harvest due to the enormous acreage of canola plantings. Much of the increase is in the Mallee.
We're hoping to get 2.5 tonne to the hectare, and the price, look, anywhere over 500 is wonderful, and it's pushing towards 600 at the moment.
There are still lingering problems from the floods. It's triggered a mice plague with 3,000 mice a hectare, destroying up to 30% of some canola crops. But many now see the floods as a godsend.
In the long term, it's benefited the whole district.
Farmers are admiring their crop but not counting their chickens. Spring floods destroyed many crops last year, and there's a long way to go before December when the seed gets in the silo.
She began judging cattle when she was just 5 years old. Now, 2 decades on, Tasmanian Olivia Millhouse has been named the nation's best young cattle judge. It's a fiercely contested competition and one that carries the future of several industries on its back. Paul Clarick reports.
I've been doing it since I was probably 4 or 5 years old, starting in the little bobby calves.
I like breaking cows down and I like talking about cows. Yeah, it's just very addictive.
They're the best in their field, the young judges that is, handpicked from across Australia for their expertise. These young dairy cow experts all won the Best Young Judge Award at shows in their respective states, and this year it's the Royal Adelaide Show's turn to host the national finals.
We need to train young judges for later on in the years, for senior judges, and this is an opportunity for those guys to get that experience.
I wanna be a cowboy, and you can be my cowgirl.
Participants are all aged under 25 and judged on how they place 4 cows in 3 different breeds. They're also judged on how they explain and justify their decision.
She's not the biggest udder in the class, but it's so silky and it's so welded on. The teat's just hanging so beautifully.
She just displays the style and the balance that I'm looking for, and I believe she's the most correct animal in the class.
The Young Judges competition has been going for decades.
It's a training thing, and it leads into life skills and then into perhaps jobs.
It's now undergoing a resurgence in popularity since being introduced into some schools.
Yeah, it's been a bit stagnant since Rural Youth demise, and we've recently got into high schools and agricultural high schools, and talking to the teachers, and the teachers have put this in their curriculum, and the kids are really taking it up. They're really keen on it. I suppose it's something different to everyday schoolwork, and kids love working with animals, and the animals respond to that too.
For Olivia Millhouse from Hawley Beach in Tasmania, the winner's ribbon brings her one step closer to her ultimate ambition.
I would really like to be a judge all over Australia, and I would like to probably maybe do judging internationally in the long term.
Competitions are also held for dairy cattle handling, beef cattle, meat sheep, merino sheep and merino fleeces.
I just couldn't believe it. It was just excellent. The standard was just so high. The way they just went through the fleeces, they didn't miss anything, and the way they explained it, they didn't take 10 minutes to tell you how to lick an envelope. They got it straight into it, and they just picked out the real important points.
Oh, it feels good. Feel good beating New South Wales at anything, including the Origin.
These guys also prove that not every young person is into video games.
I'm terrible. I fall asleep when I sit at the computer or something like that. So, no, I've always been an outdoors person, and I've always been since I was a kid growing up on a dairy farm.
I just don't have time, and just always outside, real outside person, and spending time with my cows and breeding quality cattle.
And most prefer the more traditional form of social networking that events like this provide.
Just like the camaraderie of like the people you meet and the friends you make, they're friends for life.
But while the competition is friendly and the standard is high, not everyone is entirely comfortable with the results.
These sort of competitions scare me because it makes you really feel that they're right with you. And some of these kids are. They're very experienced. They've done it for a few years and they've cottoned on well. And I'd say at least half of those guys could walk out into a show ring now and judge cows.
Finally, it seems Tasmania is becoming something of a nanny state. Normally considered the poor cousin to sheep, goats are becoming the latest farming craze here on the island state. In fact, demand for goat products has soared, everything from milk, cheese and even soap. Jonathan Gould has the story.
For Gina and Mike Butler, the phrase keeping up with the kids took on a whole new meaning 8 years ago. They started with a single goat and now have a dairy full.
We've only got 75 acres, so we were looking at something to do that would eventually turn over a profit, and we did some research, and the goat industry looked like it was a niche market.
The 300-strong herd is growing quickly.
Look, we'd like to expand our milking herd a little bit more. Mike reckons he can cope with a few more milking goats.
The Butlers have installed their own cheese factory and started producing finished cheeses on site. The expansion has come at the right time. Goat products have experienced a surge in popularity, especially with people with allergies and who are lactose intolerant. This property produces 140,000 litres of goat's milk a year, but it's still not enough to keep up with demand. Processors want other properties to start running goats to keep up with rapidly expanding markets in goat's milk, cheese and even soap. Some farmers are already jumping on the bandwagon. Kids are in high demand and another goat dairy is opening just a few kilometres away later in the year.
We need more goat milkers really, and that's basically where it comes down to. There's a huge increase in goat milk products, not just in Australia. This started in Europe and UK a number of years ago.
In the meantime, the Butlers have opened their farm to human kids who may need some nannying over the school holidays.
And that's all from us here in Tasmania today. We'll see you next time on the Rural Quarter.